Hi everybody, my name is Shelby Watson. I am a certified writing consultant here at the UNCW Learning Center, and today I'm going to show you how to format an APA paper and how to create different kinds of references in APA style. So you're going to want to start first with your blank page, just like normal when you first open up a Word document, and I'm going to start by showing you how to create a header for your paper. So to get into the header, you can either come up toward the top of your page and just double click to open the header, or you can go to Insert, Header, Blank, and that will also put you into your header. And so for most student papers, you're only going to need to insert page numbers. So you would just go to Page Number, Top of Page, and select the third option here, which puts your page number flush to the right. Now you do want to make sure that you are staying consistent with your font. So if my professor requires me to write this in 12-point Times New Roman, I'm going to make sure I change the page number to 12-point Times New Roman. And so once I do that, I can close my header, and I've got my page numbers added. Sometimes your professor might require you to have a running head on your paper. And what that means is you're just going to have the title of your paper in your header as well. So if I click back into my header to edit it, if you are required to have a running head, you can click right around here, just below a little bit where the page number is, to the left side of the page. You can start typing the name of whatever your paper is. So I'm going to be writing a paper today about frogs. So let's say I name my paper Frogs Are Fun. But in this specific case, you are going to want to capitalize every single letter. You're going to write in all caps the title of your paper. And so what this does is it's just going to keep the page number and title of your paper in the header for every single page of your paper. Now, sometimes your professor will require you to put the word running head at the front of your paper. This is not specific to APA. They don't recommend that you do this, but if your professor requires it, because some do, the way you would want to do that is you can select different first page, and then you can just insert your page number again, and you can put the words running head, colon, title of your paper in all caps again. And you want to stay consistent with your fonts. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to 12-point Times New Roman, and make sure I get my page number as well. So if I click out of my header now, and I insert a second page, see I've got still got my correct header on my second page, but my first page is different. It's got the words running head. And again, that's not recommended by APA if you're writing a paper, but sometimes professors will recommend it, so I wanted to show you how to do that. Typically, you would just leave the page number at the top of your page, or the running head of the name of your paper. This is traditionally what you will be expected to write if you're writing an APA paper. So now I'll show you how to create a title page for your APA paper. So you're going to want to start by center aligning and bolding your title. And this time your title is not in all caps, it's just regular. It's just regular lowercase with the capitalized first letter of each word. And so you're going to give that some space by going down, by hitting enter twice. You're going to stay center aligned, but you're going to unbold, and you're going to follow that up with your name, so author's name. Next line, you're going to include the department that you're writing your paper for. So since I'm writing about frogs, let's say I'm writing for the Department of Biology and Marine Biology. Then you're going to put a comma and the institution that is sponsoring that department. So I will say University of North Carolina at Wilmington. Then the next line, you're going to include the course number. So make sure you include the course number. So we'll say I'm writing this class for Bio 354, which is herpetology, a class where you study frogs and different reptiles and amphibians. So I will make sure I am putting the course number and the name of the course. Below that, I will put the professor's name, so I will put whatever their first and last name is, and if they have a middle initial, make sure you are including as much information about your professor as you have access to. Then below that, you're going to put the due date. So let's say my paper is due April 30th, 2021. And there's my title page. That's all the information I need, and I just want to kind of center it on the page so that it's a little more evenly distributed across the page. But that's how my title page needs to be set up. Alright, now that we've kind of covered that, I'm going to show you a little bit about how to use headers inside of your paper. So a lot of times you're going to want to write an introduction in your paper, and unless your professor specifies that you need to label it introduction, APA does not recommend that you label it introduction. They recommend that you center and bold the name of your paper again. That's the way that they show that you are about to start your introduction. And that's called a level 1 heading, when it is centered, center aligned, and bolded. So then you would write your introduction, just like normal. Got my introduction text. And now I want to start the next section. So I would do another level 1 heading, center and bolded, to talk about the next subject. So let's say I want to talk about tree frogs in this section. But I want to have a subheading underneath that. So what I can do is I can left align my title. I'm going to keep it bolded, but I'm going to be a little more specific with my subheading here. This is a level 2 subheading. So let's say I want to talk about specifically the green tree frog. So that's my level 2 heading. But say I want to get even more specific. I can go down a level 3 subheading, and I can make that left aligned, bolded, and italicized. So I can say green tree frog habitat. So that's my level 3 subheading, and then underneath that I would write my section, and then say I want to do another level 3 subheading after that. I would stay left aligned, bold, and italicized, and now I want to talk about green tree frog diet. Then I would keep going like that, writing my different sections, and I would continue on with these different levels of subheadings. So now that I've showed you a little bit about how to use subheadings, I'm going to walk you through how to create a references page for your APA paper. So you're going to want to offset your references page on its own page, and you're going to start with that level 1 heading. You're going to center align and bold the word references, and then we're going to go from there. So I'm going to show you how to cite a couple of different sources that you might be using in your APA paper. So first I will show you how to cite a journal article. So I've got a journal article pulled up here about frogs. Pretty neat. So I'm going to start by citing the authors. So I've got 3 authors to my paper here, and I'm going to start with my first author. It doesn't necessarily need to be in alphabetical for this source. It needs to be in the order that the authors are listed in the paper. So I will start with Wu as my first author. I will put a comma, and I will use their first and middle initial instead of their first name. So I will put C period space W period. And then my next author, we will put a comma to separate them, put the next author's last name, comma, first initial, period, middle initial, period, and then another comma to insert my third author. I'll use a little ampersand there. Instead, you don't put the word and, you're going to use an ampersand. And I will put my third author here. Last name, comma, first initial, middle initial. And now that I've got that, I'm going to insert the publication date of my paper. So I'm going to start my parentheses, and I'm going to look for when this was published. So this was published in November 2018. So I'm going to start with the year. I'm going to put 2018, comma, December. Oh, actually November. You always want to make sure you're double checking your information so that you're not putting incorrect information. And usually I would put a date after that if a numerical date is available, but since it only tells me November 2018, I will just complete it like that by closing the parentheses and adding a period at the end. Next, I'm going to put the title of my journal, and since my journal article is pretty long, I'm going to copy and paste that title. I can right-click and select Merge Formatting to make sure that it stays in the font and typeface size that I want it to. At the end of my title, I'm going to add a period and a space, and then I'm going to cite the name of the journal. And with APA for citing journal articles, you are not going to italicize the name of the article, you are going to italicize the name of the journal. So if I go back to my journal that I've got pulled up, it was published by Cell Stress and Chaperones, the journal. So I'm going to italicize that, type the name of my journal, then I'm going to add a comma, space, and the next thing I'm going to want to include is the volume number. So it tells me here that this is volume 23, issue number 6. So I'm going to italicize the volume number, then I'm going to unitalicize, add a parentheses, going to put the volume number, I'm going to put the issue number, which was 6, another comma, and then I'm going to include the page range. So my page range was 1205 to 1217. So I put another comma, 1205 hyphen 1217, and then I'm going to close up with a period. And now, since this was a journal article that I accessed online, I'm going to copy and paste a stable URL, which means it is a stable link that I can include in my reference page. That way, if my professor wants to look at the article I'm citing, they can click on that link and they can get access to that paper. And that's how you would cite a journal article. Next, I'm going to show you how to cite a blog post. So I've got a really cool blog post pulled up here about frogs. And so I'm going to cite this very similarly to how I cited my journal. I'm first going to start with my author's name. So my author's name here is Matthew J. O'Donnell. So what I'm going to want to do is start with that last name, O'Donnell. Make sure I'm spelling it correctly. Okay, comma, M, space, J for first and middle initial. And since he's the only author, I'm done with the author's names. I'm going to add the date of publication. So April 28th, 2021. All right, 2021, comma, April 28. Close my parentheses, add a period, and then I will put the name of my blog post. So the title of my blog post is Salford's 62nd Species. So I can copy and paste that here into my citation. Oops. Sometimes if it wants to add a link like that, you can insert as keep text only, and then it will stay in your font and typeface size that you want it to be. And you're going to make sure you add your period at the end of the title of the blog post. After that, you're going to want to cite the container, and so the container is just the website that publishes the blog. So my container here is the Frog Blog Manchester. So I'm going to italicize the name of my container, and I'm going to put Frog Blog Manchester. Then I'm going to add a period, and then I'm going to copy and paste the link to my blog post. That way my professor can access it if they want to. There we go, and that's how you would cite a blog post. Now I'm going to show you how to cite a book. So I've got a really cool ebook here pulled up about frogs. It's called The Wildlife of Frogs that I would like to cite. So again, I'm going to start with the author's last name, and since my author has accents in their last name, those are kind of hard to type. I'm going to copy and paste that last name in. I'm going to keep text only, comma, first initial, and she didn't have a middle initial listed, so you just put the first initial. And then I'm going to follow that up with the date of publication. So it looks like mine was published 2014, December 15th. So I'm going to start my parentheses, 2014, comma, December 15, close parentheses, period. Next, I'm going to follow that up with the title of the book. And so with books, you are going to want to italicize the title of the book. So my book is called The Wild Life of Frogs. I'm going to close that off with a period and move on to the next element. If you have a book that is a second or third edition, mine is not, so I don't need to add this. But if you have a book that is a second or third edition, you would add a parentheses here, second E period D period close parentheses period. That just indicates to whoever's looking at your reference page that it is the second or third or fourth or whatever edition number your copy of the book was. And so after that, we are going to include the name of the publisher. Kind of like you would with the container, the publisher is similar to a container here. So my publisher's name is the Rosen Publishing Group. So I'm just going to add that, add a period, and then if it's an ebook, like here I have access to this ebook, I'm going to copy and paste the link into my paper. But if it's not an ebook, you don't have to worry about doing that. Next, I'm going to show you how to cite a dissertation. So if you read someone's graduate or PhD dissertation that they wrote and you wanted to cite that, here's how you would do it. So you pull up your dissertation. Again, you're going to be using very similar elements to a lot of the other things that we've cited. You're going to start with the author's last name, comma, first initial. So I've got Schock, comma, C, period, M, period. And I've only got one author. Then I'm going to look for the date of publication. So mine was published in August of 2016. So I'm going to start my parentheses, 2016, comma, August. Close parentheses, period. Next, I'm going to look for the title of the paper. So my title is Community Assembly of Neotropical Frogs Across Ecological Scales. So then I'm going to insert the title of my dissertation. And for dissertations, you are going to italicize the title of the paper that you read. So I've got Community Assembly of Neotropical Frogs Across Ecological Scales. Now I'm going to finish that with a period. After that, you're going to put a space, you're going to use a bracket, and you are going to indicate to us that it is a dissertation, that it is a doctoral dissertation, or graduate dissertation if it specifies that. So you're going to put that in parentheses, you're going to add a comma, and you're going to put the name of the university that sponsored that dissertation. So my dissertation was sponsored by Texas A&M University. So I will just put that, Texas A&M University. I will close my bracket, put a period at the end. Then I will, if I have a container, so like if I'm on a specific university's website that's published a dissertation, I can put the name of the container here. But since mine is just a PDF that I pulled up, I don't have a container, I don't have to do that. But I will still include a link to it. That way my professor can access it. Next, I'm going to show you how to cite a film. So citing a film is a little bit different since there's no one true author of a film. But for the sake of APA, they want you to cite the director, kind of like the author of the film. So here I have pulled up the IMDb page of a film I want to cite about frogs. So I will look for the director's name, and I will again use their last name, comma, first initial. So I will go back to my paper, McCowan, comma, G. Then I will put in parentheses director to indicate that this is the director and not the author of my source. And I will put a period after the word director. Next, I will want to look for the year that my movie came out. So my movie came out in 1972. So I will insert that in parentheses with a period at the end. And then I will italicize the title of the name of my film. So my film is just called Frogs. I will italicize that, but instead of putting a period after that, you're going to insert the word film in brackets and then put your period. That just kind of tells us a little bit more about what kind of source you're using. Finally, similar to publisher with a book, you are going to list the production company kind of like you would a container. So if I scroll down on the IMDb page of my film, I can get all the way down here under company credits. This tells me what production companies produced my film. So you only have to list the major players. So in this instance, my major production companies are American International Pictures and Thomas/Edwards Productions. So since American International Pictures is kind of a long word, I'm going to copy and paste that into my paper. I'm going to keep text only because I don't want it to create a link. But since I have more than one production company, I'm going to separate it with a semicolon. And then I'm going to put my next production company, which is Thomas/Edwards Productions. Then I will put a period at the end, and I am done with that citation. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to cite a TED Talk, because I know quite a few people are writing papers and citing TED Talks now. So I've got a cool TED Talk pulled up here that I really liked about frogs. So we would start with the speaker's name. They are kind of the author of this source. So his name is Michael Archer. So again, I'm going to put last name, comma, first initial. Then I'm going to try to come in here with the publication date in parentheses. So that's just whenever your speech was given. So my TED Talk was given in March of 2013. So I'll go back to my paper, 2013, comma, March, close parentheses, period. Then I will italicize the title of my TED Talk. So my TED Talk is called How We'll Resurrect the Gastric Brooding Frog, the Tasmanian Tiger. It's kind of a long name, but we'll go ahead and italicize and add that to my citation. How we'll resurrect the gastric brooding frog, comma, the Tasmanian tiger. Then I'll add a period. Oh, but before the period, you're going to do similar to a film. You're going to unitalicize, add a bracket, and the word video, and then a period. That, again, just kind of indicates that it is a video instead of a written piece of work. And then you're going to cite your container. So since I got mine from the TED Talk website, I will cite TED conferences as my container. If you watched your TED Talk on YouTube, you would cite it like a YouTube video, and I'll show you next how to do that. So I'll cite TED conferences, and then I will provide a link to that TED Talk. There we go. So now for YouTube videos, you're going to want to start again with the author, but since it's YouTube, you don't necessarily know the real author of your source. You're going to cite the poster, whoever posted the video that you are watching. So my poster's name is Dean Boshoff, but since we don't know for sure if that's his real name, you would not write it as Boshoff, comma, Dean, or Boshoff, comma, D, that first initial. Since we don't know for sure that's his real name, we will just put his screen name in the order that it appears. So I will just cite his name as Dean Boshoff, period. And then in parentheses, I will include the date that the video was uploaded. So May 22nd, 2013. So I'll put 2013, comma, May 22nd, close parentheses, period. Alright, Then I will italicize the name of my video, which in this case it's called Bushveld Rain Frog Feeding. And then again, instead of putting a period, you're going to put a space, and in brackets you are going to indicate video, close bracket, add a period. And your container in this case is YouTube, because that is where you are watching the video. And so after that, I'm going to insert the link again so that whoever is reading my paper can access that video. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to cite an article that you find on a news website, or any other web page that you might find online would be cited in this way. So I've got a cool article from CNN about frogs called "Frogs Hopped Around the Antarctic 40 Million Years Ago." So if I wanted to cite this source, I would again start with the author's name. So my author's name is Katie Hunt. So I will start with Hunt, comma, K, period. Then I will include the date of publication, which is April 23rd, 2020. So 2020, April 23rd. Then I will italicize the title of my news article. And again, it's kind of long, so I'm going to copy and paste it. I'm going to keep the text. But if you do copy and paste it, make sure you go back and italicize it, because it does need to be in italics. So then I will put a period and then list the container. So my article comes from CNN, so I'm just going to simply put CNN period for my container. And then again, I'm going to include the link to my article. And now finally, I'm going to show you how to cite an organizational author on a website that may not have a specified author for your article. So here I've got an article about tree frogs pulled up that's been published by the National Wildlife Federation. And so there's not really any individual one person who is named as the author on this page. So I would just cite the National Wildlife Federation as the organizational author of my article here. So I will start with that name, the National Wildlife Federation. I will put a period just like I would with the author's name. Then I will come in with the date of publication. But since it does not appear that my article here has a date of publication, I will just put in parentheses. I will start my parentheses. I will put in period, D period, close parentheses, and then another period. And that just stands for not dated. So it indicates that your paper does not have a date provided. Then I will italicize the name of my article, which is just called Tree Frogs. I'll close that off with a period. And since I already listed the National Wildlife Federation as my author, I don't have to list them again as the container, because it's pretty clear already that they are the author and the website that I got this information from. So then I would just copy and paste my link into the citation, just like with everything else. And so once I do all that, say my paper is supposed to be double spaced, so I can highlight everything and double space it to make sure it's double spaced the way it needs to. Once you have completed all of your citations, you're going to want to make sure you go back and put them all in alphabetical order, because you do need to have your sources in alphabetical order in your final version of your references page. What you can also do is when you're finished is if you highlight all of your sources, you can go under the paragraph box here. You can click on this little box to open information about alignment and indentation. If you go under indentation, under special, you can select hanging, and that will hanging indent all of your citations for you so that they are now in the proper format for your references page. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. I showed you how to create a references page, how to use headings and subheadings in an APA paper, how to create a title page, and how to create a header for your APA style paper. Thank you so much for watching.